Hitprex, right here, it's a brand name. Tumbler, heat press, machine, says so right on the box. This was provided to me by Hitprex to test and demonstrate, which is what we're going to do coming up. I'm Roger, welcome to the loft above the shop, and as I mentioned at the beginning here, got a Tumbler heat press to unbox and test and demonstrate. That's what we're going to do here. And we're greeted with foam right here, well packed, and then it's wrapped in plastic inside that. So there's the heat press, and we have some heat tape and a couple of fuses and a little manual. So I'll get this unwrapped and get rid of some trash here, and we'll get into this. Okay, there's actually more inside here, sort of. Got a pair of heat-resistant gloves that are probably going to be too small for me. You get a power cord, and you have this connection here, which must be made to the machine right over here on the side. You'll see there's a connector there, and this is keyed. And there's a little keyway on there. You line up, plug it in, tighten up the ring. Okay, before you get going and putting the power cord and everything onto this, you're going to need to set it for your tumbler. So let me get a tumbler and I'll show you how to set the pressure on this. Okay, this is a standard 20-ounce tumbler. This will also do a 30-ounce, and it looks like it'll do glass cans too. And if you don't know what a glass can is, I'll show you here in a minute. I'll go grab one. So you want to get your tumbler slipped in there. Yeah, this will definitely do a 30-ounce. When you latch this down, of course, there'll be a little bit of a gap up here, but you want that gap to be even. And right now it is close, but not quite perfect. We don't want it real tight either, because if you put it too tight, you can actually bend a tumbler. I've seen people do that. So you want a pretty good medium pressure on there, but you, like as I said, you don't want it so tight that it's going to crush it or make the paper buckle. And I'll show you what I mean by that here in a minute. But you always want to get your pressure set first, which we have done now. So I will take out my tumbler here. We'll get that prepped here. And then you'll need to plug in a power cord, and I already have one set up here because I do a lot of things here at the loft. So we already have one of these cords set up. Right here's a power switch. Turn that on. And we're going to need to do some settings here. And I got to try to do this from being upside down. Right now it's reading in centigrade, and I want to switch that to Fahrenheit, so bring out the book. Okay, if you long press the arrow key here, it'll change it from centigrade to Fahrenheit. There we go. And I do not want it that hot. I want 360. And if you hold your finger on there, it'll run down rapidly. And once you get that set, you will push the little, looks like a little sprocket there. Then you can set your time. And I want to go 70 seconds. And there we are set, and it is starting to warm up. But I want to get my tumbler prepped first here, so I'm not going to let this warm up quite yet. I'm just going to shut it back off. And incidentally, as that's warming up, I notice a smell. There's going to be a smell coming from manufacturing oils and such, and that is not unusual. It's perfectly normal. So let me get a tumbler prepped here, or two, and we'll see what we can do. I'm going to show the prep here because if you have never done a tumbler before, there's a couple things you need to know. But one of the first things you're going to need to do is measure the length of your tumbler and measure the circumference. That's the diameter around it. Most of them run 9 1/4 inches in diameter, in circumference I should say, and then your height is generally 8 1/4. So you want to make sure that your graphic covers the entire tumbler. So the next thing you're going to need to do after you print it, and you'll need to mirror it, and you'll need to use sublimation ink on sublimation paper, is trim one end and take just maybe a 1/64 of an inch of the color off with your trim. This will keep you from having a white band at the seam. This is not a seamless graphic here, but we don't want to have a white stripe there either. So, see, I just took a very, very little tiny bit of color off of the side of that. So now you'll want to take your tumbler and clean it. Okay, and once you have it clean, try not to touch the outside of it. So I'll lay this on here. And I'll just do a little bit of rolling around here. I want to make sure my graphic is all the way to the top. It overlaps just a hair. And of course you want to get the paper square on there. And then I like to do this several times. Get that paper on there as tight as I can. You need to look, take a little peek and make sure that your graphic overlaps that edge where you cut the into the color there. That prevents you from having a white stripe on the seam. Then you're going to need to take a few pieces of heat tape here and get this as tight as possible. Then you'll need to tape all the way down the seam. And I could pull a long piece off, but then I invariably don't get it on straight. You also want to make sure you got your graphic right side up. I've made that mistake before. And next I'm going to show a step a lot of people skip. And that is they just put it in the press like this. And it will press fine. I like to have my color go around there's a taper on the bottom of the tumbler. I like to have my color go around that taper. And this takes a little bit of time here to do, but you'll need to start at the seam, fold that over, put a piece of tape in, and just keep going around, getting that down just as tight as you can. Also be careful when you're doing this, you don't push the tumbler up through the graphic here towards the front, towards the top, or you'll mesh everything up here. This step is optional. Not everybody does this, but I like to do it. It gives a little bit better result in color around the bottom of the tumbler. I know somebody's going to ask where I got this tape dispenser. There'll be a link in the description. Some people like them. Some people hate them. I like them. Pre-cut your pieces. Great for gift wrapping too. You can put your regular wrapping tape in there. You wouldn't have to use heat tape. And this does hold more than one roll. I just don't have it fully loaded right now because when I loaded this the last time, that was my last roll of heat tape. And there is a dispenser on the side here you can pull off and if you need longer pieces. So when you're done, it'll look like that. So now I can get the heat press over here. We'll get that started back up. We'll turn the power on. Of course, this will blink, and I actually want to go to 365 because my ambient temperature up here is a little cool. Set, 70 seconds and set. So we'll let that warm up. And it should make a beeping sound when it's up to temperature. Okay, while this is warming up, I'll explain a couple of things. You're going to want to have a heat mat of some sort. I've got one right here to set your tumbler on when you take it out. You're going to want, definitely going to want to wear your heat resistant gloves. I'm going to be using these because they fit me. And you've probably seen these in a lot of my videos. If you watch any of the other ones, these were made by Lannon. It says, Wahoo. There'll be a link in the description if you'd like to get a pair of those. They come in different sizes, of course. We'll be putting the tumbler in and pressing at 365 for 70 seconds. I will then open it, turn it 180 degrees, and press it for another 70 seconds. Okay, it's beeping. That means it's ready to go. So what I like to do is put my project in with the tape facing that gap. Then when I go to do the 180, I know exactly where that is. Okay, now also some people will wrap their project with butcher paper or parchment paper in case there will be bleed through with the sublimation paper. I use high quality sublimation paper, so I don't need to worry about that here, because I know that won't happen with this brand paper. So you want to get your tumbler set in there. That down and latch it. Hit the little start button there and it'll count down. Okay, we're counted down. We'll open this up. I'll rotate my tumbler 180 degrees. Now we'll let it count down again. And when it's done, it'll beep. We'll open her up, take the tumbler out. We'll set it on my heat mat to cool. Do not hot peel a tumbler. You can very easily get ghosting if you do that. By hitting the arrow, it will shut the beeper up and you'll be ready to start your next one. You heard me mention earlier about a glass can. So what's a glass can? Well, I'll give you a little preview here. This is going to be the subject of another video on sublimating onto these little glass cans. So it is basically a glass cup that looks like a can, like a pop can or soda can if you're from the South. A beer can has a bamboo lid, has a rubber sealing on it, and there's a metal straw that goes inside, and you can sublimate different designs on here. And in fact, I may use this press when I do this video because I'm going to be doing this one shortly, and this one's set up and right here. My big press is over on the other side, so maybe we'll just use this one for that. And I believe it's going to be about the same diameter. Yeah, I might have to tighten it up just a little bit, but not much. Incidentally, don't leave this running when you're not using it. That's hard on an element. I don't care what brand you have. Don't leave it on and when you're not doing anything. So we'll get this here cooled off a little. Yeah, it's still a little warm. Okay, once that's cool enough to handle, just peel your paper off. Sometimes it'll come off in a big sheet and sometimes it won't. Okay, so here's our finished tumbler. And if you should happen to get any paper residue on there, I got just a little bit. It'll wash right off with water. That's not a big deal. Hey, you heard me mention earlier about this not being a seamless design. There is a seam. But it's not as obvious as it would be if you would have had a gap in there and had a white stripe running up the top of it. So that makes a big difference. So the next step here, depending on what brand tumbler you get, I happen to like this brand, and I'll put a link in the description on where to get these. And it is from Amazon, but there is a rubber base that goes on here. Normally I can get that adhesive stuff right off. Okay. Let's get that centered in there. Give that a good hard press. Nice rubber bottom, makes it non-skid. You got your top, and of course then you have glass straws and stuff that can go with it. So there's an unboxing and a little demonstration and test of this Hitprex tumbler press. And my granddaughter is going to be making a lot of use out of this. She does quite a few tumblers and generally has to come over and use my heat press. So this will make it more convenient for her because she lives about 45 minutes away. So that's quite a little trip for her to have to make all the time. My next video here, I will be doing some glass cans on this. I showed you what a glass can was, and I'll be using this press to do that. So here's a couple of examples, and it'll do the 20 ounce, it'll do the 30 ounce, and I'm pretty sure it would do a toddler tumbler. In fact, I'm going to grab one here. We'll see if it fits. This is a toddler tumbler. It's got a sippy cup type top on it. Of course, you take that off when you sublimate. But it also fits. It fits this just perfect. In fact, I wouldn't even need to readjust there to use that because this is basically the same diameter as one of these, just a hair smaller, but not much. So again, whatever tumbler you get, measure the circumference before you make your graphic to make sure that your graphic will be enough to go all the way around so you don't have that dreaded white stripe. So there's how to set up. Set the temperature, set your time, start, stop. Of course, you need to rotate your tumbler 180 degrees. Don't skip that step or you'll have some really weird looking stuff where it didn't heat all the way on that seam. And all the tumbler presses are like that. you do need to rotate your tumbler. Okay, if you got anything out of this, appreciate getting a thumbs up. Always helps the channel. Of course, we're always looking for subscribers, just like every other YouTuber is. There'll be links in the description for this tumbler press, for the tumblers. I'll try to find the one where I get these toddler tumblers, the gloves, the tape dispenser, which I say is a love-hate thing with some people, but I absolutely love it. So, I'm Roger in the loft above the shop. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.